it's about to start.
Okay, cool. Looks
Let me know
like,
if you need anything else.
uh, oh, sure. I think the recording has started. I will get going on
Yep.
this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Let me share my screen and we will entire screen. Let me share. Right. Okay. So are you guys able to see the screen? Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Reshma? Okay, she dropped it. Okay, cool. Then I think, how do your friends call you? Samandam or Chokalingam? Which one is your
Uh,
first name and which one is your last
oh,
name?
you can call me Chalks.
Okay, Chalks. Cool. So let's start today's session on this. So this is part of the microservice series. My name is Swami, and I'm a Microsoft MVP and one of the learning expert from Microsoft Learn. So whatever we are discussing is part of this microservice series. But if you see that first 5 sessions, we are trying to get our foundational blocks up and running with minimal API using .NET 7. And the database technology we are using in memory using the EF core. But eventually, if you see that this is the 5th session we are doing here, and we are integrating with Angular 15. We can integrate with different applications, which is going to come in future. For the time being, we are doing this. And why are we trying to integrate it with one of the application is because it becomes a full end-to-end. Like you created a minimal API. First, we start in the first session, we did it with the static data. And in the next session, we did it with the dynamic data. Then we did a deep dive into dependency injection and IOC containers, and then extension methods and data transfer objects using the automapper. Then we did um, then we did the changes to the endpoint methods. Instead of hitting the context directly, we started splitting the logic into repository layer, business logic layer, and just to compile, we used GitHub Action and included the Swagger dependencies. And in this 5th session, what we are trying to do is we are adding Serilog and start integrating with Angular 15 and do a CORS. How do you do CORS in locally as well as when you're in Azure App Service? We do those 2 things, and then we will do some changes so that it will be integrated. Now, the goal, if you see in this 5 sessions, like 5 1 hours, so within 5 hours, we're able to build a small minimal API with endpoint for one particular domain or one particular subject. We call it as courses. Like how do you do the courses? Still, many things to implement, but I just want to give a big picture on that. And next 5 sessions is we will do. Right now we are using the app service to deploy the web API. Now what it takes to deploy something inside a virtual machine, you need to set up the IaaS and other software installation which are required. And then we can do a comparison of what it takes to deploy something to Azure VM versus what it takes to deploy something on app service. Then we slowly introduce uh, how do we deploy the database into Azure SQL. And we can do a code first approach, or something differently. We can create a SQL project and deploy SQL related things using Visual Studio, and then we will definitely do that with GitHub Actions. Now we want to do a separation of concerns, like minimal API. That project should worry only about the endpoints, what it has to expose, and what should be the input and what should be the output. It should worry only on the contracts. I mean, there is no hard and fast rule that minimal API should not have the EF core with code first approach. No, there is no hard and fast rule, and it's not an anti-pattern or it's not a bad practice. But we just wanted to create any of the component which focuses on one thing, like minimal API, expose endpoints. That's it. That's your job. You do that. And getting the content or the creation of the table, stored procedures, and getting its infrastructure and everything, let's do it as a separate concern. I mean, even though we will definitely create a separate repository where we will create the SQL project, and it will have the table, stored procedures, and the default data population, everything. That's a different story. So if you see that there's a lot many things which are going to come. So we'll be busy for next 1.5 years to 2 years on this one. So there's a lot many things are coming in. I just wanted to set the context first. So that being said, let's start with today's session. Let me go here and get into the courses. And this is the project. Let me see, where is this? Is it this one? Services courses. Oh, it's not this. I'm sorry, one second. Services courses. Yeah, this one. Service courses. Just give me a minute. So let me open this here and open this Visual Studio 2022. We can work with Visual Studio Code also, but I am little habituated to Visual Studio 2022. So we'll do that. So first of the topic, let's go step by step what all the topics we'll discuss one by one. So here, if I go to the documentation and the session 5 documentation, we're starting with this. And then we'll start with this. I am a learner, so apologize if I do any mistake. And let's start with this. The source code is here, and this is my GitHub repository, Vishipailu. I'll just put it in this chart so that you guys can grab this. Okay. And we'll start with the first topic. So logging. So there are a lot of things which we can do. The existing providers, as well as like you can have Serilog. Okay. So if you see this Serilog and Serilog wiki, so different loggings are there. Like one of the thing is Serilog, and something is log format, and we can create our own custom loggers. And some of the things why we have to use the existing one is someone has already uh, created it. So let's reuse it. Like open source libraries is the best thing to use. You can see this Serilog.net, and before using any of those libraries, we have to see that what is the number of downloads and how many people are doing, who is supporting it, and who is supporting it, and what is the license. That's very, very important. Okay, we have to see all those things, and we are using Serilog with .NET 7 minimal API. And coming back to this one, the configuration, the base minimum configuration. And if you see, we can write it to the console or file. So here we need to have some concrete logging to a file. So we use this file, and the NuGet package for this, let's see step by step, is we go to this, you can double click that or right mouse click on that and manage NuGet packages. So any one of this we can do, and whatever the installed things we can see. So this is the one we installed it, and there is no version change from 23 days. It's a same version, 6.1.0. And this the contributors, as I was mentioning, the contributors who is supporting and how frequently they are releasing, that is also one of the motivation factor for us to select any of the open source. Like you can see that it supports .NET 5 and .NET previous .NET Standard 2.0 and 2.1, and then we used to previously call .NET Core until 3.1, and after that the journey .NET 5 and above, we are not calling it as Core. Okay, until unless explicitly want to use a framework, we say that .NET framework, but .NET means it's the cross-platform one. So that's the thing. So let's see that, and then we saw we are using this library. That's the first thing, and the second important thing is the configuration. So from the configuration perspective, what is very important is um, we are saying is clear the providers. So what is happening is we are creating the existing providers, and what we are doing is we are adding builder.logging, add Serilog. When you mouse over on the Serilog, you're clearly seeing that this is an extension method. This is an extension method, and that is coming from iLogging builder. And this iLogging builder is part of this assembly. And if you see that Microsoft extensions, so that extensions. So how do you see that? I think someone has joined, Sai Krishna. Okay, so hey Sai. So if you come and see mouse over on that, that clearly shows that this is an extension method. And the logger configuration, new logger configuration, let's go and click on this one, the logger configuration. And if you go to the top of the file, so this logger configuration is coming from the Serilog. So this add Serilog is an extension method from the Microsoft extensions, and logger configuration is the constructor that is from the Serilog library. We see this, so it gets right to, so any of those logger sync configuration, it reads it, and any enrichment configuration. I didn't use the enrichment configuration, but I definitely used the logger sync configuration. So this is coming from the Serilog. So with this, what do we understand is, okay, somewhere we have defined the logger configuration. We'll see where did we define, and we are writing it to the debug and console. We'll see that difference, and also we are saying that read the configuration from builder.configuration. So builder.configuration, what is this builder.configuration? Let's put a debugger there and execute this API. So once we execute this API, just give me a minute, I'll have a glass of water. So once we keep a mouse over on this builder.configuration, let me do a quick watch on this, and you can see that sources, there are 8 sources from which it is bringing in the configuration. So what are those sources? One is in-memory configuration and environment variables, memory configuration source, and again environment variables. This is coming, and one is the JSON source. There are a couple of JSON sources. So let's explore what is that JSON source. So you can see that one is app settings.json, one is app settings.development.json, and one is coming from another environment configuration source. But let's focus on this app settings. Now that we know that that's one of the file provider where we see this, the root, it is going to the courses.api, and it is picking up the app setting path and anything which is change, reload on change. So it updates also. So let's see if we are getting a hold on that. Let me, that's a result view. Let me minimize that, and we got this one here, and this one you can see we are reading it from here, and there are 14 items which is it is reading it. You see this, the data object. This is 14 items which it is able to read it, and some of these things are coming in from Serilog. So Serilog, it's sync write to. So all this configuration, we are saying that we are specifying here in the app.settings. We are saying that what should be the default thing as information, what should be the Microsoft one as information, and Microsoft ASP.NET Core, hosting lifetime, and anything related to system is warning. So we are setting the log levels there, and we are specifying the file, where the file should get created. So now we understand that we are defining the logging information. Instead of putting it everything here, we have defined it here in the app settings.json. So that's what we saw, these 14 things here. But the net, the important thing is this entire Serilog block. So that how do we get to know that what all the things which we can configure is we need to fall back on the documentation. Okay, so if you come back to this app settings section over here, so in this app settings, whether it is in an XML format or a JSON format, we can specify. By this we will at least understand this, what is that which we can specify. Okay, and also write to rolling file. So that depends upon what is our requirement. So the thing is that if at all we are writing heavy logs that goes into GBs and GBs of space or more MBs of space. So what we can say is roll every 1 hour, like on this particular date, roll it every 1 hour. And also if it is a mid-level to small level, we can roll every 24 hours, like different dates. We'll see that in action in a minute. I think that is a decent introduction of what is that we are going to do. Let's see executing this. Couple of times we will execute it, we'll stop it, we'll execute it, and we'll stop it. So another important thing we will see is how does this appear on the console, because we are writing the Serilog in 3 different places. Okay, just I want to do that courses and click on try it out. It is in memory. It's not going anywhere out, but it is in memory. It gives some information. We are not worrying about it. But at this point of time, when we come, the first thing what we are very much interested is in the debug. So we said that write to debug. So all the things which you can see this is coming in from the Serilog. So let me clear it off. Everything I cleared it off, and then coming back to the Postman, and I click on not Postman, this Swagger. I clicked on it. Now you can see that the entire pieces of information is getting split out. Like you're executing an endpoint, and it started the get all courses, then it started the business layer, and then went into the repository layer, and then it started sending the 200 response and API DTO as JSON, what it is spitting out. Then it says that what is the status code, and it took 144 milliseconds. So this is the information which we are able to get it from the debug. That was first source from where we can get it. Now the second source is, we said that write to console. So it is writing the same pieces of information. If you see, let me move this a little aside. Now you can see 2025. So 2025, 17 seconds, executing the endpoint. And then 18, it starts this one. So you can see this HTTP2, and it is calling this. And rest of the things, I mean, if you place these two side by side, you see the same piece of information, including that 144 milliseconds. So same piece of information, we saw it in debug, and we saw that in console. And now the third source where we wrote it was to a folder. So we said that outside that there's a logs folder, we created it. And you can see that this is April 0405. So we have rolled out. So we can get into this, and we can see the same pieces of information here also, which starts at, yeah, this one, 8:25, 17 seconds. So you're seeing the same pieces of information. Now, just to ensure that it is rolling every day, what I'll do is I'll change this date from 05 to 04. Technically, I'm cheating it, but once we put it in production or the dev test or QA environment, every day it rolls out the log file. So now that I manually modified that to April 4th, let's do another quick experiment to go ahead and see whether it is creating another log file. You see that the moment it didn't find the log for today, so the rolling was on date. Some people, they take it, as I was mentioning, hours in 2005, 4, and around that time, we used to work in application where the log was pretty heavy. So every hour we used to roll out to a different log file, and different story, good olden days. 2004, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's a different project. So different things. Now see this, if I come back to this one, I execute one of the endpoint, and this endpoint, whatever I executed, as and when I do that, you can see that it will start pumping in the logs I was bumping in the logs. I think this is a decent logs. Yeah, see this, it didn't refresh it. So we saw that it's a 4K. That's the thing about Serilogs. Now, what is the need for us to log is to track and always come back what happened to a particular transaction. I mean, there are other logging mechanisms are there. We have application insights and different elementaries are have come. Application performance monitoring has come that will take care. But this is in one of the scenarios where you are hosting it to a infrastructure as a service or to a Azure virtual machine or a virtual machine in AWS or other cloud provider. You are hosting it in on a server where you want to track all the transaction for some reason, maybe it's a mandate from the security team or some governance group wanted to log all the transaction. We have to do that for multiple reasons. Okay, that being said, let's jump to the next topic. Let me close those two windows and let me come back. I'll close this window also. Let me come back over here. The second topic is CORS configuration in development mode. So first let me unblock the CORS and then we will see. Let me close this, and this is the web application, and let me do that. It's in MI. I just want to ensure that it has got all the packages which are required to execute. Everything looks like all is well. npm start. Let me start this. So this CORS, let's spend 1 minute time on this CORS. Did I already give a URL for CORS? No, I didn't. So let's get it directly from here. Why this CORS is very, very important. So let's get this information and we will see particularly here in the network tab of developers tool. Okay, for the time being, let's understand that CORS, cross origin resource sharing. Okay, that's a standard, allows a server to relax same origin policy. That means the UI is being hosted in localhost 4007. But whereas the web API, if you see that, the FQDN, fully qualified domain name, that means the schema HTTPS : the domain name, including the port, are pretty much different. So if you see, this is starting with HTTPS : localhost 7221. How do you know that? If you go and hit try it out, we can see that that's the URL, HTTPS : localhost so and so. At least this is the first piece which it validates. And where is that UI hosted? The UI is hosted on HTTP localhost and 4007. That's the one. And now we'll see that. We'll understand this piece first before we go any further. And I will put this here and I'll click on, let me go to the network tab, reserve logs is there. Just click on this CORS, I mean the endpoint. And oh, I think it is hitting the Azure one. Just give me a minute. I have to correct it. Um, it's it's trying to hit this posted instance, but we got the response. That's a different story. But that wasn't in my plate to explain. But anyways, we started with that. Let's try understanding it. So now, if you see that, did we select that or everything? Let me again go back and click on this, and let me clear it off and click on the this one. Uh, all the endpoints. We set the preserve logs. So what happened here is, so we got the get method. It hit the get method. Here we are saying that strict origin when cross origin. And if you see the response headers, it says that access control allow origin. It's star. This is the practice we did it, but we will specifically enable only those which we whitelist. Will not do a blanket thing. Whatever I'm doing it, we will be very, very careful who will access our API. So it will not be the blanket one. We will specifically say that what is the endpoint. So what I will do is technically come back here and go and modify the product service where oh, I'm saying product service and searching some other files. So let me come back to this file, and this is the one which is here. So let me put this back. So I'll put it here. Oh, those two are same, so I don't need to do that. So now I changed it. But here, if you see that we are hitting both are local. This is also local as well as our API is also local. It should be this one. So let's come back to this. I will do a clear of this and go back and do a refresh and clear this off and click on the products. So you can see that it went ahead and brought it. So if you see that endpoint, what is the endpoint? It is HTTPS localhost. We hit the local one. So now what we will do is we will stop the CORS. Then we will see it will start creating problems for us. We want the problems. We don't want the solution. We want the problems. So what I'm doing is I'm saying I switched it off and I'm executing it. And when there is some piece which will be in the configuration services, we'll do that. First, we will check with this when use CORS has been disabled. So technically, it shouldn't allow. So let's see that. So now we are on the same page. I do a refresh. So when I do a refresh, it goes and you're seeing two red marks. That means it has blown. So you'll see that not modified, and it gave some other thing which we are not expecting that. So I'll close this, come back over here where the allow policy is there. I will block this one because this has been added. So I don't want even that to be added. So I will add this over here. Now we are not adding any dependencies for cars. And then I do a clear. Do we have that up and running? Yes, it is up and running. Now I'm again back in the products. I click on it. So now we got the two errors. And now, if you scroll back, I mean, actually, it shouldn't display this. I think, let me empty cache hard reload. Yes, this is what I was expecting. So the CORS error. So when you go and see that, I think it was pulling it from the cache. Now uh, un, when we block the CORS, so what happens is it made the call to the API/courses, and status what it returned is it says that CORS error. Now when you click on that, what it says is strict policy, and here itself we'll have a lot of information. Let's dig it into that. And it says that refer this policy. And in the response header, you are not seeing those things which we saw previously. The server is not returning saying that, hey, I'm going to allow you. And request header, we are saying, we are specifying all these things. If you see that, this is the origin. The origin of the UI application is this one, but it is trying to hit an endpoint which is of this origin. Both are not same, isn't it? One is this HTTPS localhost 7221, and the origin from where the request has come, HTTP localhost 4007. So those are not matching. So for this to work, first thing is, first thing what we should do is we will uncomment. So we will uncomment this, and let me do one small change. I don't know whether it will work or not. With origins, string origin. What is that origin which we are seeing? This origin. So now it's not blanket. Now, previously we said that allow any origin. Now it's not a blanket statement. We are saying that allow this particular origin. Okay, that can be array of strings. You want to allow selected origins. We can specify that. Okay, this is one change, and another change is we added the dependency. We should consume in the HTTP request pipeline also. We need to put it in the pipeline for this to work. And if you focus, what we are doing is we are allowing this CORS only in the development mode, not when we deploy this to Azure, not when we deployed this to Azure. That's very important piece to note. Because some of the things, if you see Swagger also we are allowing it only in local. We're not deploying the binaries to production with Swagger enabled. So we are not doing that. So similarly, we do this CORS also. Why? We will see that in next 10 minutes. So now that we are back in action, so let me right mouse click, empty cache, hard reload. So now you can see that. I think it is this CORS. So it is here. And when you see previously, if you see the other example, the first time when we ran this, access control allow origin was asterisk, isn't it? It was an asterisk symbol. So that means it's like a blanket statement. Anyone can come and hit us. Now we are saying that no, it's not anyone. Only I will say that these are the endpoints which I'm allowing. So this is control fashion. Now that was a blanket statement. Asterisk is a blanket statement where any endpoint can write a client UI which can hit our server and get this. I mean, if it is authorized or unauthorized, that's a different story. But even if we are able to put an authorized tag, still we are allowing someone to hit the server. We don't want that. So that's one point. Now, how do we hit the server and what changes do we need to do? Let's see that. Again, I'm putting it back to the server. So here, if you see, let me come back to the service, and here is the app service. So in this app service, I just want to show some of the things. Now, the first thing is app service is platform as a service. Now, if you see that some of the properties which is right in front of our eyes is that it's the publishing model is code. And what is the runtime stack? It is .NET 7. And the last time I did the deployment was on 28 days, around 25 days plus. It's on 13th March. And this is the default domain. So that means if I click on this, if I click on this and you go to the certificate is valid. That is a wildcard certificate. So star.azurewebsites.net. So app.courses.api.azurewebsites.net or simplewebsite.azurewebsite.net or saikrishna.azurewebsite.net or chalks.azurewebsite.net. Any of the endpoints which you're exposing, everything is coming under this wildcard certificates. So the common name, it said that star.azurewebsites.net, and you can see the hierarchy and other things. So first point is this one when we are exposing. And the second important point to observe is we have, I shouldn't have done it, I enabled it, but second important point we need to focus is this app service plan. So let's see that what is this app service plan. So when we come to this app service plan, it says the plan is D1 plan. Okay, click on that D1 plan. So here they are giving two different modes to view about this. This is hardware view and this is feature view. So first let's observe that what is this hardware view. So it is backed up by some computing power. So you can see that either it is vCPUs or ACU, Azure Compute Units. So the compute units is they're guaranteeing that you will have X number of vCPUs, this much of memory, and this much of storage. If you see that, whether it is free or shared, you're not going to get any vCPUs. But from basic onwards, you're getting vCPUs. If it is B3, you're getting 4 vCPUs. Oh, that's good. But end of the month, you are going to pay 17,000 and change. Now, if it is 2 vCPUs, you're paying around 8,500, and this is 4,300. And RAM in free and shared, you're getting 1 GB of RAM, and different RAMs are there. And similarly, storage and scale for shared and free, you can't do any scaling, whether it is manual or automation. You're not going to get that facility, because as and when you will have the facility based on the business requirement, what is that business demands, you can go ahead and choose it. But what is very important, we are getting it out of this view, is that some kind of computing power is being promised when we select an app service. When you look at the feature view, you see that in the feature view, you're saying that, can I do an auto scale for the first two slots? You can't. For the basic, you can do, but it is manual. And this is rules, elastic, like this, as in when you go more. And similarly, do you have any backups? So until basic, you don't have any backups. From here, it does a backup. And staging slots, it starts from here. VNet integration, it starts. So either if you look at the hardware view, like what is the computing power you're going to get, or if you look at the feature view, you'll know that what all the features which you're getting for a particular plan. And each plan you have to give X number of rupees or bucks you need to pay. Okay. Shared is like you're paying 1 rupee every hour. Okay. Monthly it is around 800 rupees. So that's one thing which I wanted to highlight. And next thing I want to highlight here is, now you can do a scale up or scale out. Scale out you will not be able to, because we always seen that until unless it is the B plan, okay, B series plan, you will not be able to do that. And you want to do an auto scale, it should be S series plan, but at least you can do the scale up. And while doing the scale up, technically you're coming to the same view where you can decide what is that you want. So right now in the hardware view, you'll not know whether you'll be able to scale it or not. Switch to the feature view. You need scaling. So do you need to do a manual scaling or automated scaling? So if it is automatic scaling, you'll start from standard app service plan. If it is manual, you'll do that. So this is the second thing which I wanted to highlight. And that being said, let's go back and come here. So I want to show you two other things before we switch to the CORS. So one thing is this app service editor. Whatever the files which we are seeing here, the output is being generated by binaries, isn't it? So those binaries will be here. You're seeing this logs folder, Serilogs. Today's log is here, and March 13 log is here. So the logs folder is getting created. Similarly, you can see the app settings. You want to change, you can change any of those things, but that's not a suggested way. But I just want to show you what is happening under the hoods. And let's go to the console. This is another view, but you will see the same thing. Now, if I do an ls, or I'll do dir, I'm seeing the same. You're seeing the logs folder here. I do dir/ad/w. It shows the logs folder, cd logs. I come into the log folder, I do a dir, I have this one. Let me do the cat and courses API. This is latest log. I'm able to read that. So let me go ... and let me do ... I'm in the C home site, and then I do dir, it is www root. So in the app settings folder also, you're seeing www root, and you're seeing all these logs and app settings. So I will come back to cd www root folder. And if I do a dir or ls-a, ls-l, get me the list. It gives the list, but net what we are seeing is this is uh, a console, we can do all kinds of almost all kind of interactions. But another view is this app service editor view, where you want to do a quick change in dev test environment, where you're doing an integration and wanted to test that, oh, is it the right thing to do a quick validation? We can do this, but I'm showing that these are the keys of the kingdom, but never ever touch this. Okay. So apart from that, I just want to highlight few other things. We said that when we selected the app service plan, that means it is a promise to allocate a defined compute units or defined compute power. That's a promise. So when I do a host name, I'm seeing that web WK 5 zeros followed by 3. That means it clearly shows that when I do an host name on my machine, I'll get my machine's name. Similarly, when I'm doing an host name on the app service, so that means definitely there is a computing power which has been backed up. Even though this is platform as service, the the virtual machine setup and IaaS, everything has been abstracted. But when I do an host name, it gives me a machine name or a container or whatever it is, but it's sure shot that there is a computing power which has been backed up. So each of these, how they're doing, that's a different story. But you see that it's a site. When we compare in the next episode, where I was showing the series, what is that we are going to do here in the series. I just want to spend 1 minute time so that you will know the big picture. Here, this is the 5th episode. 6th episode, that's where we are comparing how do you set up an application on IaaS inside a virtual machine on Azure. And then we'll do a comparison. What it takes for you to deploy an app to app service, that's PaaS model, and what it takes for you to deploy a app inside an IaaS on a virtual machine. So that's when you will really understand that how much efforts has been taken away from our plate into the automation piece, where we click on a button and it provisions our website and we are able to deploy. Okay, that's when we really appreciate the things. And now, if you see the CORS, how do you enable the CORS? So when you enable the CORS, that's what I said, that asterisk is like a blanket statement, which is very, very dangerous. What we are doing is we are allowing origins step by step. I can add new origin and do a save, but I already added this. So now let's come back to this. And now again, I'll do the same magic. Empty cache, hard reload. It might take few seconds. I'll tell you why. Because that app service, whichever I've taken, was the shared one. So that's a shared space and it doesn't have much of the computing power. So it took 4.1 seconds to bring in the content. And we'll see that now it came down to 240 milliseconds. This is cold versus warm modes. So when our site is not active, so it goes into the cold mode. So that means the next hit has to go through the entire process and wake everyone. Hey, someone is asking us to give the data. Come on, wake up, wake up. It's like that. It has to do that. So that's the reason if you see that the first hit was 4 seconds and the second hit was 240 milliseconds. And now around 300, less than 300 milliseconds, but 4 seconds, like 4,000 milliseconds versus 300 milliseconds. That's way too much. Okay, so that was the thing for today's episode, and I will show the deployment when I'm doing the next episode where we do the deployment to uh, uh, IIS on a virtual machine in Azure, as well as how do you create an app service plan, an app service, and how do you deploy it. And that's when the entire 1 hour we'll spend, because we have already seen this integration and everything. We'll only see that the same web API, we'll deploy it in an app service as well as in an Azure. So that's where we will come to know the differentiation. Hey, what is that it takes to deploy it to the IaaS model, infrastructure as a service model, versus platform as a service model. Okay, so that's it. So see you guys in the next episode. In, I think it's in 15 days, or it's in the month end. We have this one. So Sai, do you have any queries, Sai?
No, sir.
Nothing?
Am
Okay, cool. Thanks, Sai. Bye.
Sir, sir,
Yes, Sai. Tell me, Sai.
actually, I'm a fresher and I didn't understand anything, sir. And I saw a YouTube link and I will follow up.
Oh, okay. So there is video series. If you go to .NET Learners House, I'll show you that. Gracie, you can stop the recording, Gracie. We are done with
Okay,
the session.
I got you.
Thank you.
Thank
In the
you.
mean,
Let me make sure I got you here. Stop.